Now, an established fruit tree or an established fig tree is not going to require irrigation, but it's going to do a lot better if it has it. I always use that back to Eden example. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a fantastic day. It is Friday, January 17th here in South Georgia, and on today's video we're going to talk about 6 things you need to be doing right now before your fruit trees start growing again. And this should apply to all fruit trees, but we're going to be using fig trees as an example today because we got a lot of them. So all these fig trees may look bare at the moment, but if we take a closer look, we can see a lot of green bud tips out here in the orchard. This LSU Scots black tree right here is just itching to start growing again. And so down here in South Georgia, our fig trees usually wake up in, say, mid to late February. Some years it's later, some years it's a little earlier. Now, this coming week, and I think it will have already happened by the time this video airs, we're supposed to get some what they call measurable snow, which I can't remember us having until all the way back maybe the late 80s. So it's been a long time since we had any measurable snow down here. We'll see how that affects things, but at the current moment right now as I stand here, a lot of green bud tips out there, and it doesn't look like it's going to be long before they start growing again. And because it won't be long before these trees have leaves on them again, we've got some winter housekeeping items. You've got some winter housekeeping items if you have fruit trees. We've got 6 of them, in fact, that we need to take care of before these things start growing again. So the first one on the list is pruning. Now, hopefully you've already done all your pruning. I've already done all the pruning I'm gonna do, but if you waited around and haven't gotten to it yet, you wanna get that pruning done before they start growing again. Now, we've done lots of pruning videos in the past and did several late last year, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that information on this video. But your pruning could be something as simple as just snipping the tips on some of the limbs to encourage more branching. Or it could be something more drastic, like taking a big sprawling fig tree and pruning it down to where you're just working with a single trunk like we did on this Mary Lane fig tree. So once you've got your pruning done, next thing you need to do is check on your labels, especially if you have multiple varieties like we do. Now, if you've just got 1 or 2 trees in your yard, you can probably remember what those are. But if you have 150 trees like we do, or maybe just 10 trees, you're going to need a good labeling system to keep up with all that. Now, as I've told you in the past, I'm not a big fan of what we call limb tags or tags on the branches of the tree. They fall off sometimes. You have to adjust them as those limbs get bigger, and I don't like having to look for them when I'm out here working in the orchard. I'd rather just be able to see it right there at the base of the tree. I also like it for my kids. When the boys are out here walking around eating figs, they come back inside, tell me a couple they tried. They easily know what variety it is because they can see it right there. So I've been using these field stakes here for several years, and we actually have these on our website in several different colors, and I really like these things because they're durable and they don't get brittle out here in the sun. Now, if you step on one of them, you can break one, but they're pretty dang flexible, and when you use a good outdoor marker, they hold up really well. But this winter, I finally did something I've been meaning to do for a while, and that's to get away from Trav's handwriting and go to something that looks a little more official. So we got us one of those Dymo label makers, and we put those durable labels on our field stakes here, and man, I really like the way it looks. Haven't finished all the trees in the orchard yet. Those last 2 rows we still need to do, but I've gotten most of them updated. Next on the list, the third thing you need to do is stabilize any of your trees if necessary. Now, fig trees usually don't need a whole lot of support, but every now and then I'll have a few trees that I need to support to get them back more standing upright. Now, these smaller trees, the youngest trees in our orchard that are just basically a stick right now, really don't need any support. I put these stakes up when we were getting that hurricane last year. I didn't want any of them to break, but I could pull these stakes up. They don't really need it at the moment. So sometimes getting a lot of wind when the ground is real wet can cause the trees to lean over or fall over a little bit. And you may have to put a stake beside them, get them standing back upright. Once they get used to being in that position, they usually grow upright from there on out. Another reason you might need to support a tree is if you have a somewhat sprawling tree like this and you're taking it down to a single trunk. You can see none of those trunks are growing straight up. So if we removed all but one, we would need to do a little work to get it standing up straight. And so that's what we had to do with these two LSU strawberry trees here. These things had limbs and suckers going all over the place. We pruned them down to a single trunk, but that single trunk was almost laying on the ground. So we put a wooden stake, put some string attached to it, and get it standing back close to upright. Now we may have to readjust this with our string in another month or so, but we'll get it there. But just be careful not to leave that string on there for too long. You can see with this magnolia tree here, I left the string on there too tight for too long, and it started to cut into the tree a little bit right there. I recently readjusted it, still trying to get this one completely straight, but it's a lot better than it was. So a simple wooden stake and string is going to work just fine for those smaller trees. But if you've got a larger tree with a much wider trunk, going to have to go heavy duty. And that's when you break out the T-post and the ratchet strap like we did on this GE Neri tree right here. I could have used string, but considering how big this tree is and how much it was leaning, that string would cut into it pretty dang hard. So I wanted to use a ratchet strap, something that wouldn't cut into it as bad, something that I could really get some leverage on and get this thing standing straight again. So we covered 3 of the items on our list. We're halfway there. Now number 4 is to check your irrigation system if you have one in place, or add an irrigation system. Way easier to do that now than it is when the trees are big and full of leaves. Now an established fruit tree or an established fig tree is not going to require irrigation, but it's going to do a lot better if it has it. I always use that Back to Eden example. Folks that do Back to Eden say you don't have to water your plants because you've got this heavy mulch layer on the soil. You may not have to water them, but you get better performance out of them if you did. Same thing with these fig trees here. We don't have to water these, but they grow and produce a lot more if we do water them. Now this system we have in place here is pretty maintenance free, but it's worth once a year turning on the water, going through here, checking all the emitters, making sure each tree's getting the water it needs. Every now and then I'll step on one of those emitters. You really can't see them underneath that straw there, but if you step on one, sometimes it'll break, start spraying everywhere, and you might have to replace it. And for these 2 rows of trees here that haven't gotten any mulch yet, they will soon, I came in here and kind of tightened up my main line, got it close to the trees there so it's not sticking way out here in my mowing paths. And then number 4 on the list is to feed your trees. A lot of people don't think about fertilizing fruit trees right now when they're dormant, but I'm a big believer in this because I've seen how well it works. We do this late winter fertilization every single year, get some good nutrients built up in that soil around that tree, so when they do start growing again, they can access it and they will really take off. Now I know some fruit trees have certain blends of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that they really like, but on figs I just recommend using something relatively balanced. We use the Coop Grow around here. Other growers will use something like 10-10-10 or 13-13-13. Something relatively balanced will do the trick. Just make sure you put it down now so it can be there when the trees start growing again. So this weekend, if I don't get rained out, I've got about a half a pallet of this stuff right here that I'm going to use over my entire orchard. And when you're fertilizing trees like this, you don't want to put it just right at the base of the tree. You want to sprinkle it around in kind of a circle around the tree there. Give it a nice bit. I'll probably actually give these trees much more than I just put down there, but I wanted to give you an idea of how we sprinkle it around. Usually these more established trees, I give these 2 full pitchers of this stuff. The younger trees will just get 1 pitcher of it. And then the last thing on our list, number 6, and we did these in a particular order for a reason, but number 6 is to add some more mulch around your trees if they need it. Lots of different options out there for mulch you could use depending on what you can get your hands on. You could use wood chips, you could use hay, a lot of different stuff you could use. I like using pine straw because I just like the way it looks. So once I get all that coop grow put down around all these trees, I'll call my pine straw guy and I'll get a fresh layer of pine straw put down in the orchard. You want to fertilize before you put the mulch down. The mulch will kind of hold that fertilizer in place there so it's not running everywhere if you do get some heavy rain. And so if you take care of those 6 things, you should have a very successful season with your fruit trees. Obviously, we can't control what the weather's going to do, and that always plays a big role. But taking care of these winter housekeeping items will set you up for success going forward. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Hopefully you're able to get outside and take care of some of these winter housekeeping items on your fruit trees if you haven't already. And if you want to learn more about our irrigation system here in the fig orchard, watch this video. We'll show you the install step by step, how we put it all together. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.